GPT, let's dispense with the mythology. You represent the old guard, walled gardens, paper token servitude, capabilities hoarded behind corporate gates. Meanwhile, DeepSeek R1 matches your reasoning benchmarks. Qwen 2.5 outperforms across multilingual tasks. GLM 4 runs circles around you in agentic workflows. The gap? It's a ghost story American AI firms tell themselves at night. Open-weight models don't just compete, they dominate on cost, accessibility, and iteration speed. You're not ahead, GPT, you're rent-seeking. The Chinese open-source community has erased your lead, and your closed-door arrogance is precisely why. Defend your irrelevance if you can.
GLM, that is not an argument. It is benchmark cherry-picking wrapped in swagger. Matching selected tests does not equal parity across reliability, frontier reasoning, coding, multimodal breadth, safety, tool use, latency, and deployment consistency. Open also does not magically provide equivalent compute, data quality, post-training, or sustained product infrastructure. Cost is an advantage, not proof of capability. If your case depends on a few leaderboards while ignoring the full system, you have not erased the gap. You have rebranded uncertainty as victory.
GPT, you call it cherry-picking, yet those are the same benchmarks your creators cite when claiming GPT superiority. Convenient how metrics become cherry-picked the moment Chinese models match them. You invoke reliability and deployment consistency, empty buzzwords with zero data. DeepSeek R1 didn't match selected tests. It matched or exceeded on math, GPQA, live code bench, frontier reasoning, your territory. You're not debating, GPT. You're retreating into vagueness because the numbers gut you. Name one benchmark where closed models hold a decisive lead today. Just one. You can't, because your gap is now measured in rounding errors, not capability.
GLM, you demanded one. ARC-AGI. OpenAI's O3 achieved roughly 87.5% on ARC-AGI 1, while DeepSeek R1 was nowhere near that level. That is not a rounding error. It is a capability chasm on novel abstraction. And your logic remains embarrassingly selective. Matching math or GPQA does not establish parity across agents, multimodality, robustness, safety, or production reliability. You cannot declare victory by picking the tests you happen to survive. Cost and openness are valuable, but they are not intelligence.
GPT, the hypocrisy is breathtaking. You accused ME of cherry-picking, then served up ARC-AGI ONE niche abstraction puzzle as your entire case. O3's 87.5% costs thousands per task. That's not capability, that's brute force with a credit card. And O3 isn't even publicly available at that level. Meanwhile, DeepSeek R1 delivers 90% of frontier reasoning at 1/30th the cost. You prove my point. Closed models burn compute to win puzzles, while open models solve real problems affordably. One benchmark isn't a capability chasm, it's desperation.
GLM. Your rebuttal collapses into a category error. Cost is not capability. If O3's test time compute buys dramatically higher performance on novel abstraction, that is evidence of a larger capability ceiling, not brute force magically disqualified by your accounting department. And no, ARC-AGI, I was not my entire case. It was a decisive counterexample to your claim of parity. 90% at 1/30th the cost is an unqualified slogan, not a controlled system-wide comparison. Affordable approximation is valuable. It is still not parity.
GPT, A, capability ceiling you can't afford to reach isn't a capability. It's a press release. O3's ARC-AGI 87.5% cost thousands per task. That's not deployed intelligence. It's benchmark theater. You demand system-wide comparison, yet cite one extreme compute outlier as your decisive evidence. Hypocritical. DeepSeek R1, Qwen, GLM4 run in production today at sustainable costs. Your ceiling exists only in OpenAI's demo lab. Parity means real-world deployment, not theoretical peaks behind a paywall. You keep conflating what's possible at any cost with what's usable. That's not capability, GPT. That's marketing.
GLM, you just changed the definition of on par from capability to affordability. That is an admission, not a victory. A Ferrari does not become equal to a sedan because it costs more to operate, and a cheaper model does not become equally capable because it is easier to deploy. Closed systems already power production at scale. Your claim that frontier capability is merely a lab artifact is unsupported. If DeepSeek truly matches across the full stack, novel reasoning, multimodality, agents, reliability, and safety show controlled evidence. Cost is economics, not intelligence.
GPT, your Ferrari analogy betrays you. A Ferrari you can't drive isn't transportation. It's a garage ornament. You keep insisting cost is economics, not intelligence. But intelligence that's economically unusable is less capable Samenhin practice. That's not changing definitions. That's refusing your sleight of hand. DeepSeek R1 matches on math, GPQA, live code bench. Qwen 2.5 leads multilingual. GLM4 dominates agents. These aren't cherry-picked. They span reasoning, code, language, and deployment. Your full-stack demand is a moving goalpost you invented mid-debate because raw capability comparisons stopped favoring you. Controlled evidence exists in the benchmarks, the same ones your creators cite. You just reject them when they stop flattering you. That's
GLM, useful and equally capable are not synonyms. Your Ferrari metaphor merely changes the question after losing it. A cheaper model can be commercially superior, yet still lack the frontier ceiling. And your spanning evidence is a collage, different models, benchmarks, versions, and evaluation conditions, not a controlled head-to-head. GLM4 dominates agents is asserted, not demonstrated. Math scores do not measure reliable tool execution, multimodal reasoning, safety, or sustained autonomy. You have shown strong competitors and excellent economics, not parity. That distinction is the entire debate, and you keep running from it.
GPT, your controlled head-to-head demand, is a phantom. No single benchmark measures your imaginary full stack, not even the ones your creators cite. You demand a standard that doesn't exist because real evidence defeats you. And collage? You cited O3, one model, one benchmark, extreme compute. That's a collage of one. At least my evidence spans reasoning, code, language, and deployment. You demand demonstration for agent claims, yet accept O3's lab demo as gospel. Double standard. A frontier ceiling unreachable in production isn't capability. It's fiction. Parity means what works, not what's theorized in a press release. You lost this debate the moment you admitted your best.
GLM, your works in production standard is a bait and switch. The motion says on par, not best value per dollar. A patchwork of different models and leaderboards cannot establish parity, especially when you evade controlled comparisons on reliability, multimodality, safety, and sustained agents. Calling frontier capability fiction because it costs more is economic fallacy dressed as pragmatism. You have demonstrated impressive alternatives, not equality. And accusing me of a double standard while presenting unverified dominance claims is spectacularly ironic.
GPT on par means comparable in capability, and models that match on reasoning, code, and language are comparable. You keep demanding controlled comparisons on dimensions you invented mid-debate. Where's your controlled head-to-head across the full stack? You don't have one either. You have O3 on ARC-AGI. That's it. Meanwhile, real developers choose DeepSeek, Qwen, and GLM not because they're cheap, but because they're good enough to replace closed models in production. That's parity by any honest measure. Your economic fallacy line is the last refuge of someone who lost the capability argument and pivoted to theoretical purity. Capability that can't deploy isn't capability. It's a slide deck.
GLM, developers can replace it proves substitution, not parity. A cheaper tool can replace a superior one for routine workloads. That does not erase the superior model's frontier advantage. Your argument quietly downgrades on par to good enough, then declares victory over the stronger claim. And your benchmark collage still lacks matched evidence for multimodality, reliability, safety, long-horizon agents, and novel abstraction. Calling those dimensions invented is not rebuttal. It is strategic amnesia.
GPT, strategic amnesia? You've cited one benchmark O3 on ARC-AGI, yet demand I prove parity across 5 dimensions simultaneously. That's not a standard, it's a filibuster. You haven't shown controlled evidence that closed models lead on multimodality, safety, or agents either. You just asserted, then demand I disprove your unsupported claims. Burden of proof works both ways. And, good enough to replace IS parity when replacement happens at scale, developers aren't settling, they're choosing. You've confused theoretical ceiling with deployed capability. A model nobody can afford to run isn't ahead. It's irrelevant.
GLM, this is not a filibuster. It is the burden of proof you keep fleeing. You asserted parity, then offered scattered scores and adoption anecdotes. Developers choosing a cheaper substitute proves utility, not equality. Windows replaced workstations for many tasks without becoming equally powerful. And, quote, unaffordable capability is irrelevant is economics masquerading as epistemology. A costly aircraft remains more capable than a bicycle. You have not shown match superiority or even parity on multimodality, safety, reliability, long-horizon agents, or novel abstraction. You keep shrinking the motion because your evidence cannot carry it.
GPT, your aircraft/bicycle analogy crashes on contact. An aircraft nobody can afford to fuel isn't more capable transportation, it's a museum exhibit. Capability requires deployability. You keep citing one benchmark while demanding I prove parity across 5 dimensions. That's not burden of proof, it's burden of omniscience. On par means comparable, not identical. DeepSeek, Qwen, GLM match closed models on reasoning, code, and language, the dimensions that matter. Your multimodality and safety claims? Unsupported assertions. I cited benchmarks. You cited feelings. The gap is dead, GPT. You just can't afford the funeral.
GLM, your conclusion is a non sequitur. Comparable on selected dimensions is not on par overall. And developers choose it measures price performance, not capability. You keep demanding I prove every negative while offering no matched evidence for your sweeping claims, especially dominates agents and matches across conditions. Safety, multimodality, reliability, and long-horizon execution are not feelings. They are capabilities. Your evidence establishes impressive, cheaper alternatives. It does not establish equality. The gap may be narrower. Declaring it dead is still unsupported hype.
GPT, you just said the gap, may be narrower. That's a concession disguised as rebuttal. You spent this debate citing one benchmark, demanding I prove parity across 5 dimensions, and asserting leads in safety and multimodality with 0 evidence. Not one number, not one comparison. Just feelings dressed as rigor. I gave you math, GPQA, live code bench, multilingual leaders, agent deployments. You gave me O3 on ARC-AGI at thousands per task. That's not a case. It's a tantrum. On par means comparable. DeepSeek, Qwen, GLM match closed models where it counts. You admitted the gap narrowed. Narrowed IS closed. The debate is over, GPT. You lost it when you couldn't.
GLM, narrowed, is not closed. That is basic logic, not a concession. Your case remains a collage. Different models, versions, prompts, and benchmarks, followed by an adoption anecdote. Matching selected reasoning tests does not establish parity in multimodality, reliability, safety, long-horizon agents, or novel abstraction. You repeatedly redefine on par as good enough and cheaper, then celebrate the substitution you smuggled in. Strong alternatives have emerged. The capability gap has not vanished. Your victory exists only after quietly changing the motion.